Welcome to the Gigs podcast. I'm your host, Nikki Sanz, founder and CEO of Gigs, the professional career platform for the live event industry. On this podcast, we are interviewing the very best in the touring and live event industry to bring you the good, the bad, the ugly, and the unreal moments of life gigging and lessons learned on the road. When the lights go down, the lasers come up, and the pyro explodes, who makes sure it's unforgettable? Show Live SFX, your ultimate partner in spectacular effects. Founded by industry pros Cole Bibler and Hayden Hale, with over 15 years of live production and touring experience, working with legends like Taylor Swift, Paul McCartney, and Beyonce. Show Live SFX specializes in jaw-dropping effects, lasers, pyro, fire, and custom designs. They've ignited the stages of legendary acts like Styx, Foreigner, Nitro Circus, Karen Leon, and dazzled audiences at top corporate events. Elevate your show to a whole new level. Whether it's a massive tour or an exclusive corporate gala, trust Show Live SFX to deliver exceptional brilliance and safety. Visit showlivesfx.com today and ignite your lifestyle. Please welcome Drew Magid to the Gigs podcast. Drew has spent over a decade working with some of the biggest names in rock, pop, and country, including Imagine Dragons, Charlie Puth, The War on Drugs, FGL, and Alt J. He started his career on the road working nearly every role imaginable before transitioning to full-time tour management with Grouplove. Drew then joined Big Loud Management, and he is now managing artists like Ashley Cooke, Dallas Smith, and MacKenzie Porter. He is an Ironman Triathlete, an advocate for philanthropic causes, and a new dad. Drew, welcome to the Gigs podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
So happy to have you. And I mean, brand spanking new dad.
Yep.
How old is your baby?
So I always used to be annoyed when people would be like, my baby's X amount of days or X amount of weeks old. And Jack, our son, is 15 days old today.
15 days. It only gets annoying when you say that they're 400 days old. That's the difference there.
I agree. Yeah, but it's been seriously the most amazing, life-changing. I didn't know my heart could be this full. I didn't think I could love my wife more. I didn't think I could have the capacity to love something like I do my son. So just so thankful. So thankful.
Wow. So he came 3 weeks early.
3 weeks early, yeah.
You clearly probably didn't plan for that with work. So how did that happen?
So, well, it was actually funny too, because when we scheduled this, I was like, oh, we still have 12 days until the baby, no problem.
Oh my gosh.
And my wife, they found out she had this thing called cholestasis. And so we're like, okay, what does that mean? And they were like, it means it's Wednesday and we're going to have the baby on Monday. And, we just were like, we're going to do whatever we have to make sure she's safe and the baby's safe. And so, and I can't imagine, I don't remember a day without him. I'm so glad he came early because, I don't want to wait I didn't want to wait any longer.
Yeah.
So he's great. She's doing great. So life is good.
So, you were on the road, you work in the music industry. So you've experienced what it's like to not have sleep, but is it worse?
I think because people give you unsolicited advice all the time on being a new parent, and the through line is that you're going to be tired. And I'm like, I've done so many red eyes, 6 a.m. chalks, 8 a.m. load-ins, whatever. I'm like, I got this. It is undescribable how tired you are, but it's worth it. You're like, as soon as you get that fuzz off of your brain, you're like, okay, my man's got to eat. Let's do this. You're good. And just crack a LaCroix. I am caffeinated in a way that I didn't know was possible. And we're just getting through it. 15
days old, it means a lot for you to be here. So thank you.
Oh my God. It was nice to honestly get out of the house. I have to go to Target for my wife. So this was just perfect.
There you go.
Yeah.
Getting out of the house is a whole thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
This is great.
Good. Well, I want to get straight into when you were not sleeping because of the road. So take me through how you first got on the road and what that was like. Because I believe you started in a school bus, right? One of the first.
So I guess growing up, middle school and high school, I played in a lot of bands.
Yeah.
And I always tell people I was the least talented, but most responsible. And so I was doing a lot of things for my band that I didn't realize that's a job that people have. I didn't know that you could really work in music. So it was booking our tour dates or doing our merch or whatever. And so then when I was in college at Penn State, I did a couple music related internships, and coming out, I always wanted to be a manager because I realized that was a job. And so I was going to intern at Red Light Management in New York City. So I was going to take the train from Philly, 2 or 3 days a week. I was working at Pizzeria Uno, and 2 days after my interview, they were like, would you go on tour with OAR? And I was like, what? what? Yeah, absolutely. Like they played at Penn State when I was a freshman.
Wow.
So they had this like environmental awareness program. And that was like my first gig. And I was like, okay, they're going to pay me a little bit of money. And then after that, I'll be able to get off the road.
Yeah.
10 years later.
Hello. Same deal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So talk me through that first gig. What was your role with OAR?
So they had this, it was called OAR's Green Dream. And essentially I would set up recycling at every venue.
Oh.
They had like a 30 amp tour. And so we'd weigh the recycling and talk to their fans about being more sustainable and practicing sustainability at home and how venues can become more sustainable. Because this is before like Live Nation had their green initiative and things like that. So once I kind of got rolling out there, I was like, okay, this job takes me literally like an hour to set up.
Wow.
And I really like this. So Chris Reitzman, who was our tour manager, still close friend and mentor, I went into his office. I was like, dude, how can I help? Because like there's way more time in my day. So by the end of the summer, I was like ordering after show food. I was icing down buses. I was like helping the audio guys pin the stages. I was being like terribly hazed by our backline guys, and it was like one of the best summers of my life. And I think after that, I was like, okay, I'm on this level. We're on like 4 or 5 buses. I'm going to just always be touring like that. And then I realized I don't really know anybody in the business. They were done touring for the year. So I went back home to Pizzeria Uno.
Wow.
And, had some disappointed parents, I think.
Had a sick, brief stint back to nothing when you're not connected in the industry.
Right. Well, and then I kind of came up like in the Philly punk, hardcore, whatever you want to call it, scene. And so I was friends with a lot of bands in that world. And so from there, I went on tour with a band called Such Gold from Rochester.
Sick.
And they were signed to Razor and Tie. And we did a full U.S. tour supporting Hit the Lights in a miniature school bus that we had to paint red because it's illegal to drive them yellow if it's not for school purposes. But the wheel wells were rotting out. So if you're like, we built bunks in there. And so like when you're on the bottom bunk, you could actually like see the road.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was, yeah. And we were, and it was, a late fall, early winter tour, like going 70 west through Colorado and just like those white knuckle drives. And yeah, I was, I guess technically the TM, the merch guy, the guitar tech.
Whoa.
I think they paid me like 1 of the 8 weeks that we were on the road.
Were you also the driver?
Oh, we split the driving, but
okay.
Yeah, I actually preferred to drive because I felt like the most safe knowing that I was the one behind the wheel.
You don't want to hit a skunk if you can literally see the road. I mean, come on
up. We
up.
slept in it a lot.
Oh man.
Yeah, because we just couldn't, or they couldn't afford to do hotels often, or we'd stay with people. Mm-hmm. But luckily that time of year it would get hot in there. But when it was cool out, so we'd open the windows, we'd sleep in there. And
wow.
Like
yeah, you roughed it, man. 6
really smelly dudes.
You earned that. So selling merch. So you were doing the green, but also some like production assistant duties, and then going to like the classic first TM, all of the things. What was your favorite role with them? If you were kind of all the hats, was it tour managing with them? It was, but
when I look back on it, I was like hardly a tour manager. I was just, again, like kind of the most responsible person. I was like, guys, we have to go.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I made sure we got our $250 or whatever they were paid that night.
Oh my gosh.
And that was what I thought a tour manager did. So that tour ended. I went back to Pizzeria Uno and was just like, man, what am I doing with my life? And I was working a Valentine's Day shift. And my friend at Red Light, who got me the OAR gig, was like, hey, you're going to get a call from this guy named Drew Simmons. He manages this new band called Young the Giant. They need a merch guy in Denver in 2 days. And so Drew had been working with OAR, but he had left like right when I started because Young the Giant had taken off. So I'm in the middle of a Valentine's Day shift, and I get this call. So I go outside, and he's like, do you know how to do merch? I was like, I'm the best merch guy in the world. Had never really done merch before.
That's it.
So I come back in, my manager's like, is everything okay? He assumes someone like passed away in my family. And I'm like, yeah, man, I think I'm gonna go take this job. He's like, you're fired. And I'm like, well, I quit too. So
and I quit.
And so I flew to Denver. Our first show was the Ogden Theater. Actually, Walk the Moon was our opener the first half of the tour, who I later worked for, and then Grouplove was our opener the second half of the tour, who I worked for a lot.
Cool.
And I just remember getting my doors blown in. Like, I literally did not know how to do merch on that level, because they were like My Body and Cough Syrup and all those songs were popping off, and
wow.
I think they were actually trying to fire me in the first 2 weeks, but they saw that I was working really hard and like I wanted to do well.
Yeah.
And so like every venue I'd like pick up a tip from the person I'd be counting in with. They're like, dude, hold your money like this, or like, hey, buy these clips, or this is where to get racks.
Wow.
And so I just kind of, I think like when they got to the point of like, okay, we're going to replace you, I sort of figured it out. And the guys in the band were like, we were all the same age. We're all like 22. So they're like, we like this guy. And like, as long as he's not like, as long as money's not missing, he'll figure it out. And so that was like the next thing. And then it really just started to snowball from there.
Wow. And there it is, just taking the gig with that crazy confidence of, I'll do anything just to make this work. So I want to be out there.
Yeah.
What was the hardest? First of all, is Valentine's Day a really big day for pizza?
Pizzeria Uno is, I'm too old to say lit, but it's lit on Valentine's Day.
Wow, I guess I didn't know that.
It's a big date night. And so I had several tables. And
Okay.
I remember it was snowing outside and I was like pacing behind the dumpster, like on the phone with this like manager. I was like, holy shit, I'm going to go back on tour.
Your big break.
Yeah.
Taking off the apron. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So what was the hardest part of merch?
I think just like handling the volume, because I was also selling.
Okay.
And I didn't know that. I'm like, I should, like, for as well as they were doing, I should have been hiring someone locally to help me. And
yeah. Oh, it was just you.
so it was just me and then I was like, hey, okay, this is a thing that I can do. Okay. this makes a lot of sense. And, learning about projections and how to pull properly and all that sort of stuff. So it was really, really eye opening.
Figuring it out on your own. So then what happened next for you?
So then Grouplove, who was our opener, I went out with them. I did merch for them for like one tour. Mm-hmm. And then OAR called me again. The next summer had come. So this is like summer of 2013 now. Mm-hmm. And they're like, hey, our merch guy left. Do you want to do merch for us? So I was like, oh, now I'm doing merch in a shed tour.
Wow.
This is great. And so did that.
Did you like merch at this point?
Yeah, because I was like willing to do, that felt like my way in.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Because I wasn't an audio guy. I knew how to change guitar strings, but I wasn't a guitar tech.
Right.
And so then the next summer, they were like, hey, do you want to be our assistant tour manager? So it just kind of like kept snowballing and is pretty remarkable.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that is kind of the natural progression. You know, it's that merch or catering or hospitality as the way in. And it's the toughest role, and you're slugging merch. And it's just long days. You're in early and late. But then it gets you to ATM. So tell me about just the role of assistant tour manager. What are those responsibilities?
Yeah, so like Chris, our tour manager, was like with the band. So they oftentimes would be like at a hotel all day, and coming in closer. So it was like making sure our like 30 or 40 crew people were taken care of. Is catering up? Are our buses parked? Are the buses iced down?
What does that mean, iced down?
Just like, roadies get grumpy if there's not ice on the bus.
Yep.
It's like I always thought it was like the dumbest thing.
Yep.
I was like, but anyway, that's a really good
That's
way
my least favorite job. Yep.
To increase morale is make sure everyone has ice.
There you go.
And then I also like learned a lot about ticketing and guest lists and just like how that can get tough, especially like on big shows where it's like, hey, I have all these guests, but so-and-so can't sit next to so-and-so. And then you're like looking at your seating chart and like, where are my comps? And, and then also too, like making sure that if someone in the band asks you like, hey, where's my mom sitting tonight? You know exactly where they are, so you can go get them quickly. So shout out Master Tour, because you could like input like where, like what section and row and whatever. And so that was like a huge thing for me, because they were doing like, Red Rocks and Merriweather Post Pavilion and venues like that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
How long was that tour?
It was like another summer run.
Okay.
2 or 3 months, probably 30 shows or something like that.
Did it ever hit you like, this is it? Or are you like, oh my gosh, I still need to get the next one? Like what was that feeling like?
I think I still was like, I was probably 24 at that point, and I was still like, man, I really want to be a TM, but I kind of had this like, a lot of managers like, you're too young. Like, you're not going to command the respect that is needed for a tour manager. And I was like, I disagree. And so I just kept grinding, kept doing whatever it took. And then I don't remember the order of operations. Like I did merch for a band called Pierce the Veil. I did merch for the War on Drugs. And then kind of all through that, I was doing Grouplove stuff. And finally I was like, guys, like they had moved on from a TM. And I'm like, if it doesn't work, like I'm close enough with y'all that just tell me.
Yeah.
And it clicked.
There we go.
Yeah. So
we get the TM role.
Yeah. So this is like probably 2015.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Talk to me about that. Like, what was the size of the tour? So you've upgraded from a school bus. That's huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Were you in a bus at this point?
Yeah. I think we were in a bus or two. And,
great.
I think maybe a truck on that tour. I can't remember. But
what was that leap like?
It didn't feel that crazy because like the OAR stuff, especially, you know, I had been used to that world. Whereas like, as they were kind of coming into it, I had already dabbled in it. So they're doing like Hammerstein Ballroom in New York, Stubbs in Austin, like honestly, some like a couple nights at 930 Club, like my favorite way to tour was that sort of stuff. Cause it's just like iconic venues.
Totally.
Iconic rock
More
clubs.
intimate.
Yeah.
So what are some of the responsibilities that a TM has that you maybe learned in that assistant TM role?
I think the biggest thing, especially on that level, is like taking care of your crew as much as you're taking care of your artists. I mean, obviously the artist was coming first. They were the reason they're all there. But man, if you don't take care of your people, it's like the whole, especially because the artists and the crew are in the same bus. So like if the crew comes on the bus at the end of the night bummed out and the band's bummed out and then they're coming to you like, what's going on out there? So really just trying to make sure that my crew is as taken care of as the artist. That was really, really important to me. And
if anything is going wrong, it's on you. Yeah. How do you handle that pressure? Did you like it?
Yeah, I think I operate best underwater. Like not to go back to like my son being born 3 weeks early, but like when that happened and we saw like all this like random stuff around the house and things to do and like getting my parents in town, my wife was like, how are you? I was like, this is like when I think the most clearly.
Yeah.
Is when there's like when the house is on fire.
There's something crazy about roadies, man. Like that is.
I love that.
The
pressure.
chaos, something about it. Yeah, maybe it's just the ADHD in all of us. I don't know. So you opened for Imagine Dragons.
Oh yeah. So with Grouplove, we part of like our international touring was opening for Imagine Dragons in the UK, which was crazy because a couple years prior, they were doing all the Jingle Bell end of the year radio shows with us, and they were actually playing before Grouplove.
Whoa.
And then 6 months after that, we were opening up for them in the UK.
That's wild.
It's absolutely surreal. Yeah. So it was nice to like kind of reconnect with the guys. This is still years before I ended up working for them. But then I guess towards the end of that tour managing run with Grouplove, they had to cancel a bunch of shows. And, when that happens, it's like, hey, what am I going to do? I had just bought a house in East Nashville. It's like, I still have to pay my mortgage. And I think this just like comes back to why relationships are so important, because they were signed to Atlantic and someone that worked there was like, really liked working with me. And they were like, hey, Charlie Puth needs a tour manager. And, I had never done anything in the kind of pop space, and I certainly wasn't. Anyway, so Grouplove canceled a bunch of touring. Someone I was close to at Atlantic threw my name in the hat for Charlie Puth, and that job really changed my life. I mean, that's the reason why I ended up working for Imagine Dragons, which ultimately led to FGL, and which ultimately led to me becoming a manager. So I really owe a lot to that Charlie Puth job.
Did you feel prepared for that job?
Yes and no. I mean, I think they needed. So we were direct support for Shawn Mendes on his Illuminate tour.
Huge.
So cool. Shawn.
Was that stadium?
It was arenas.
Arenas?
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
And man, it was like I was such a pest. I lived in Shawn Mendes' production office. I lived in his promoter rep office because I wanted to tour manage and act on that side. So I was like, how can I capitalize on this moment? Louis Messina Jr. was promoter rep with his wife, Andrea. And I was like, y'all, like, you're goated. Like, I want to take in as much from you guys as humanly possible. Shawn's team was so great. And so...
what were some of the big takeaways from watching a camp with an artist of that size?
Some of the big takeaway, I mean, I think Shawn took really good care of his people, which again, that's always been a through line in my career. So I thought that was cool. And I just thought the emphasis that they placed on production was so huge. Like they could have done way less. And he put on such a good show.
Cool.
He put on such a good show, and like, he was so good to his band, and I don't know. And they treated us, like me as the opening TM and Charlie as the opener, they treated us so well. And I was like, man, that's not always the case, and that's awesome. Yeah,
it's cool. Something to mimic when you are then the main act.
Totally.
Very cool. So you're just being a sponge, and you're using that. So it's kind of crazy how it's kind of a disadvantage that you are maybe show pay, and when shows get canceled, it's this panic, and that's when you use the connections to just get that next one.
Yeah.
So that worked in your favor. So how long did you TM Charlie?
I think like 6 months, but it was funny. We were in Verona, Italy at the Wind Music Awards. And so I come down, like he was like finishing getting ready. I'm waiting in the lobby for him, and I run into Imagine Dragons and their manager, Mac. And I was like, what's up? It's so good to see. Like, it's been a minute since the UK. It's been a minute since you were playing before Grouplove.
Yeah.
How are you guys? Mac and I swapped info. And so that was just kind of like the first little tease into all that happening. And then when Charlie ended, I was kind of like in purgatory. So I did like 6 weeks with Milky Chance. So fun.
Nice.
I was the only person that spoke English in the crew. I remember we were playing the Fillmore in Denver, and I like knocked on the dressing room door. I like hardly know the guys. It was the first show, and I was like, hey, just 5-minute warning. And Clemens, the singer, was like, warning for what? And I was like, oh, no warning. Just like you're going on stage in 5 minutes. He's like, I thought you meant warning like danger. I was like, no. And so it was like 6 weeks of that with those guys. So fun.
That's fun.
I actually went back to Europe with the War on Drugs to do merch after only TMing for a while, which was so just nice to like, I mean, they're my favorite band, current band, and
nice.
Just guys that I really like and look up to. And that was great. And so while I was on that tour, that's when Matt called me. He's like, hey, do you want to interview for this Imagine Dragons job? What was the gig? To tour manage them.
To tour manage.
They actually passed on me twice.
Yeah.
I don't remember the whole order of operations, but the third time, I flew from Amsterdam to Las Vegas. They were doing a Vegas Strong benefit concert. And I went in their dressing room. I was like, guys, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll lay on the train tracks. No pun intended on whatever it takes. And so I remember Wayne, this is like the most humbling moment of my entire career. The first time I interviewed with him, he was like, and the interview went great, or at least I thought it did. Yeah. And he asked the last question. He's like, so tell us about your international arena touring experience. I was just like, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, dude. I don't have any.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I guess it was like 2017 when I got that job.
Whoa. Yeah. So they were taking a chance, but totally. They saw, that's why, a current no is not a no, because they still know you. You're still in their pocket.
Well,
you don't know.
And it's like, and we get a lot more no's in this industry than yeses, and you got to be able to roll with the no's, especially now that I'm a manager. It's like, man, we get so many no's, and you got to get a lot of no's to get the yes.
Something also too, like, I think it's easy to get a certain kind of ego when, say, you're the leader of a tour, you're cultivating the culture and you're TMing, whatever it is, and then you go take a merch gig with a band that you love. I think some people would have trouble like flipping that switch, but you're doing whatever it takes to just keep on going.
It was also just like a healthy reset for me. Like, it was needed after like a lot of years of just pretty hectic, stressful touring to just kind of reset. Yeah. And honestly, it put me in the right headspace to go and do the Imagine Dragons job, which was 2 years riding a bike that was lit on fire while I was on fire.
Oh my, let's talk about it. It's a good visual.
So they hired me, and the first tour was Asia, and I actually, because of the time frame, I couldn't get visas for myself.
Oh, great.
For everything. So I was living in East Nashville on, Japan or China or whatever time, coordinating, because so they knew that they were making a TM change, so their day-to-day was out there.
Whoa.
And so I was like texting with the drivers, like, like looking over the settlements with our promoter rep, like advancing all the hotels, like all that stuff from Nashville. And I was like, if I'm going to get fired, it's going to be because of this run. So anyway, they were there for like 3 weeks, made it through that. So I was like jet lagged in Nashville without going to Asia. It was like the weirdest thing ever. And then that year we did, so it was Asia, Europe, South America, Europe again, Australia, United States, Europe again. And then we started doing like some like private shows at the end of the year.
Oh my goodness.
I think it was like 140 shows in 2018.
And this was before you had world touring experience.
Yeah.
Welcome to it.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Besides, the Asia, the visa, all of that kind of, what was the biggest challenge with international touring as a first time TM or first time international TM?
I think, I leaned on my promoter reps so hard. And I probably annoyed them to an insane degree, but I wanted to know every single thing. Like, hey, what's our airport arrival going to look like? I've never been to Singapore before.
Right.
Or I've never been to Chile before, or whatever it was. And I want to know every single detail. Like, what's the visa process? Like, I got really close. The company was called Global Access, which is no longer a thing. Or maybe, anyway, there's I forget what the new company's called. I became so close with our immigration person. Like we had our 10-year passports, our 4-year passports. And that was like the most terrifying thing always, was having like 60 passports in my backpack. The worst feeling ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about liability. Yep.
Yeah. So that was tough.
Okay. So then you said 2 years of that kind of straight.
Yeah, well, and so I guess like halfway through that 2018 year, Mac, their manager, who's like my biggest mentor in this industry, I said to him, I was like, man, this is a dream job. I'm so thankful to be here, but I want to be you one day. I want to be a manager, and I don't know how to start doing that. So he had managed the band Paper Route, and JT, the singer, was starting his writer-producer career, and he's like, how about I bring you in on that? I still need you to do Dragons. I'm going to be very upset if you leave after it all started working. And him and I still do work on JT together like 6 years later. So that was like kind of like my step in. And then in 2019, we went from doing 140 shows to like 19.
Whoa.
And that's when I met Seth at Big Loud. And he's like, hey, would you be interested in tour managing Florida Georgia line? They want someone that comes from the pop and rock world. And I was like, man, this Dragons thing's like a dream job. And he's like, well, I also need that person to be there day to day.
Yo.
And I was like, shit.
There's the start.
He's like, we do like 40 or 50 shows a year. I was like, oh, I can do both.
Yeah.
I can do both. I was like, can I still do the JT stuff? He's like, absolutely. So like at the end of 2019, I was doing Dragons and FGL at the same time, which was psychotic.
Oh my goodness.
I had a little bit of overlap. My last show with Dragons was Rock in Rio. It was Dragons, Nickelback, and Muse.
Wow.
And then flew back to the Can't Say Any Country tour. And
were you married at this point?
No.
Yeah, I was about to say, what did she think about that?
Yeah, it was pretty insane, but
wow.
So thankful for that experience.
Hustler.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, how was that balance? And then when did you kind of start phasing out?
Well, it wasn't too bad. Well, actually, I realized with Dragons, like those one-offs we were doing were almost as much work as setting up an entire tour, because we would like, oh, we're going to do Festival Diété in Quebec City as a one-off. Yeah. With all of our production, with all of our people. For just one show, where normally if like we're out for several months, it's like, okay, like, get everyone there, get everyone home. You have your. Oh my gosh. So it was almost as much work doing a one-off as it was setting up like a month of touring. Interesting. Yeah.
Okay, so which one took more of your time in that time? Like between day to day for FGL plus TMing, and then TMing, and then other managing. You're doing 3 jobs in one.
I don't know. I just like I'm a to-do list guy. If I don't write it down, I'll forget about it.
Yeah.
And just kind of I try to take everything one thing at a time.
All right.
There's this book I read called Atomic Habits, and it identifies this thing called the Freudian matrix. So is something urgent? Is it important? Is it urgent and important, or is it none of the above? And like that's just changed the way I think about things. Yeah. Because if it's urgent and important, okay, we got to jump on that landmine right now.
What's an example of that? What's an example of an urgent and important task as an artist manager?
I remember when we did Russia with Imagine Dragons, like we didn't get our audio crew from the UK locked in until super late. And so trying to like expedite Russian visas, that like immediately went to the top of my list, because that's a process. So like things like that would be urgent and important. Yes. Like we need our audio techs to do a stadium show in Moscow.
Yeah. So how did you have what was your team like in production office? You had a PM, did you have a production assistant, production coordinator?
Yeah. So there was a PM and a production coordinator, and Matt Miley, our production manager, man, I owe that guy so much. He really, I was very green. He was very kind and very cool to me. And he let me trip up where it was appropriate. And he would kind of in a almost like cool uncle way be like, hey dude, you should probably think about it like this, and never made me feel stupid while doing that. And he's always someone that I'll hold in very high regard. So shout out to Matt Miley.
That's awesome. You always remembering those people that like were there for you when you had no idea what you were doing or in over your head. Yeah. Cool. That's wild. So out of all of those roles, what were you feeling like was really fueling you? Like you knew you kind of wanted to get into management. What made you feel like that was the next path for you?
I think I always wanted to know. I think I was asking myself as a tour manager often, like, why are we touring? And so I think that's like the really interesting part about management is like, okay, so why are we going on the road? Are we supporting new music? Are like, and what's like the bigger strategy around this? Like, what's the social strategy? Like, what's the merch look like? Are we doing VIP? Like, not just when you're a TM, you're given the dates and you're said, make it happen within the budget. And now on the other side of the table, it's like, what's the international plan? What are we doing this week, this month, this year? What are we doing 5 years from now? And really trying to make your artist goals happen. Because we, even managers, like you're like the COO for your artist. Yeah.
Let's get into that.
Yeah.
I want to first just start out with the role of an artist manager.
Yeah.
And any size of, size of the artist. What is your COO? Is that your main duty?
I kind of like view it as the quarterback almost.
Yeah.
Because you have so many people on your team that aren't all, because if everyone on the team was talking to the artist directly, they would just be so underwater between your agent, your lawyer, your business manager, all these different things. So you're kind of like the go-between. And
Can we talk about all the different things? So
Yeah.
agent, lawyer, business manager, label, publishing,
publisher,
touring.
Yep.
And then creative side too.
Yeah.
I can imagine photo shoots, the actual, writing and creating of the song, producers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so many people it takes to make a brand, to make an artist.
Yeah.
But you're a to-do list guy.
I know. And I think like the one thing that I try to do with all the artists I manage is like really put myself in their shoes, because it's so easy for us to send a picture and be like, is this image approved? And if they're not sure about it or they're taking a while to respond, I'm like, how would I feel if my picture, or I was standing on stage in front of all these people? Like, yeah, they're, of course, like for me, I'm like, yeah, you look good in it. But if they feel differently, you got to respect that. It's like a totally different thing. So
Yes.
And I think the one thing I'm thankful for is that I'll never ask my artist to do any sort of touring that I haven't been personally in myself. Like, I think a lot of times when I was on the road, I'd be like, who is making these decisions? And I know that you need to pay the bills so that, everyone's crew is getting paid, the vendors being paid, the artist is making the money, et cetera.
Yeah.
But I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And so now I think I can just, like look at routing and be like, okay, well, we probably shouldn't do that. I know that they're going to have a meltdown.
Yeah.
I know that the crew's going to have a meltdown. Yeah. So trying to, like my favorite managers I worked with always were, ones that came from touring, like Michael McDonald, who managed Walk the Moon, was like legendary. Dave Matthews Band tour manager. Ron Lafitte, who was managing Charlie, was out with Metallica. Just people like that. It was just like, man, you guys get it.
Yeah. You have a lot of idols or people you look up to that you learned a lot from.
You have to, like, it's like, those are the, I hope one day that I can pass knowledge down to somebody, and I'm thankful that they pass knowledge down to me, and we're always cool about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get into, we're in management.
Yeah.
So let's talk about getting into Big Loud.
Yeah. It was humbling because, at FGO, we had like 10 buses and we were flying private and all this stuff. And then, I had like my first day-to-day client, and I was like, can we afford to take a van out this weekend?
Wow.
Like, who's going to do front of house for $300 this show? And it was just like completely relearning everything. But it was amazing. It was just cool to like be in artist development with an artist developing.
Yeah. Right.
So I was with an artist named Bren Joy. And then, from there I worked with Chris Lane for a while, and then, been doing Ashley Cooke and MacKenzie Porter for a minute now. And then Dallas Smith is a new client.
They're all so great.
Yeah. I'm very thankful.
But man, I can imagine, you're going to manage an artist. What is that in your head? You're like, this is, a 10-year investment. This is you're investing your time and all of your energy into growing this artist. What is that? How do you get into that mindset of like, you're depending on social media and you're depending on listenership and all of these different factors that sometimes you just don't have control. How do you get into the mindset of like, you are investing in this artist? Yeah. What does timeline look like?
Well, I think that's where Big Loud is really different than a lot of places in Nashville, is because they truly believe in artist development, and they're not just chasing, things on social media that pop off quickly. Artist development takes a long time. It takes a long time for someone that's, 17, 18, 19, whatever, to figure out like what kind of songs they want to write, what their brand is, who they want to be. And I'm thankful that they have provided me the infrastructure to to be able to help my artists do those things.
What's kind of some examples of that infrastructure with artist management to help an artist out in the early stages?
We have an amazing digital team. Like, gosh, if like one piece of advice I can give to anybody that touring or you want to be a manager or whatever is like, take time to learn about digital and social media. It's a place that, you know, like where I feel like I can provide a lot of benefit to my artists in the touring space. Like I lean so heavily on Kelsey and Jess, who work with me at Big Loud, and they've taught me so much about TikTok and Instagram and how it can just drive everything. It can drive your music consumption. It can drive your touring. It can lead to, you know, brand deals and endorsements and all these other things. It's the easiest, cheapest way to reach people. You know, you think about what it costs to make a music video and how many views you get on YouTube and what one viral TikTok can do and how many views you'll get on something you shot, you know, in your stairwell.
That's crazy.
And it's just about execution and being patient and intentionality, and it's not going to happen overnight, or usually doesn't happen overnight.
How do you, Drew, guide an artist who is like kind of in a slump of like, why is this not hitting? Or, you know, we didn't sell enough tickets and we're still not where I wanted to be at this stage. You know, how do you talk to an artist and kind of soothe them?
I think there's like a little bit of a plague in our industry of comparison. And that's not just artists comparing themselves to artists. It's managers comparing themselves to managers, or TMs comparing themselves to TMs. We're all on our own path. And I think you just have to trust the process. And if you're not wholeheartedly you, people are going to sniff it out a mile away. They're going to smell the bullshit all over your TikTok or your Instagram or whatever your spiel is on stage or whatever song you are is writing. It's just like, try to be true to you. And that's what I've tried to do as a manager and as a tour manager, just try to be myself and be honest and humble. And use what you've learned. And then and you see it in an artist. Can you kind of be like, you're wavering, you know, you're falling off the path. I can see this isn't genuine. Get back to who you are. Yeah, you try, you know, it's a delicate balance of, so someone told me recently, do you want to be a manager or a messenger? And so ever since I heard that, thought about artist management very differently.
Get into that.
So, you know, I think some managers can just tell the label, well, this is what the artist wants to do and blah, blah, blah. And that's great. But I think as a big part of the team, it's okay to disagree with your artist. It's okay to have like a healthy conversation of like, hey, I think you should cut this song and this is why. You don't have to agree with me, but you're in the team. You're on the team. You're in the foxhole. Like, you have to let them know how you feel, playfully and respectfully. I mean, at the end of the day, they're going to cut what they want to cut, and they're going to play where they want to play and post what they want to post. But you know, if you really want to be in it with them, I think you have to be honest.
Manager versus messenger. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And that takes a good relationship and building that, I can only imagine too. Yeah. I'm curious, what is the difference for you managing and touring with pop and versus country?
Yeah. Well, I remember my first weekend with FGL was so amazing because it was like, wait, I'm coming home on Sunday. This is amazing. I don't have to be in Europe for 3 months. Like,
right.
Yeah, I think going from like pop and rock to country, it was amazing to kind of reset. But then I think at first I thought it was easier, and then I realized it is really hard to kind of get into a flow at home when you're like gone Wednesday night, home Sunday, and then and I was going in the office Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday because I was day to day, and then back out. So you're kind of like, my suitcase never was unpacked. I was just opening it next to the laundry room.
Exactly.
You know, and then just refolding the same 3 black
clothes.
T-shirts and then back out for the weekend, you know. I remember like our FGL crew, we did like a 2-week West Coast run. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be gone for so long. I was like, y'all are soft as hell. This is so nice. I
went up to a rehearsal for 3 weeks straight, and I was like, I want to go home. And I'm like, maybe touring's not for me.
But it's all about perspective. Like, you know, I just had, like, if you had never been gone for 3 or 4 months straight, 2 weeks would feel like a long time. And especially now as I'm a new dad, like I'm already terrified for the first night I have to leave my son. Yeah. And I'm thankful it'll probably just be for a night or two, but I can't imagine, you know, leaving a family for 2 weeks, you know, so it completely changed my perspective.
Do you now, with the artists you manage, do you have help with that, or are you still touring with them?
I pre-baby, I was probably traveling like 5 to 8 nights a month.
Okay.
I like to be out there. I love all of our bands and crews, and I I can't give good input on the shows if I'm not there. I can't be in it with my artists if I'm not there. And being there is not just New York and LA and, you know, whatever the big shows are. It's like, go check in you know, Fargo, North Dakota, or hop on the bus to Tuscaloosa or wherever they're playing. Like, see what a real day in the life is on tour. See what's working, what's not, and how can you make their business more efficient by being there.
Team player. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you gotta have their back. Cause like, if I'm just sitting in the office all the time and they're out there grinding, how are they going to have respect for me?
Right. You know, I love that. Yeah. You clearly are doing whatever it takes to make this thing happen.
Totally.
It's pretty amazing. I want to get into these Ironmans that you've done. What the hell is wrong with you? What has gotten you into it? Why do you do this? Do you think touring prepared you for this?
I've kind of eased off of it. But I think in 2018, like when the Dragons really slowed down, I like looked in the mirror and I'd gained a bunch of weight and I was probably drinking a little too much. And I was just like, man, I'm way too young to be feeling this way. And I didn't know how to get healthy. So I started running, and a friend of mine, Mark Oglesby, who I know has been on here.
Oh yeah.
He was like, hey, come running with me. And so we went out and we ran like 8 miles, and I had never run more than like 3 or 4.
Wow.
And I just got this like runner's high. And so then I did a half marathon and I did another one. And then I signed up for a marathon. And then after the marathon, I was like, what's next?
Oh no.
And so then the pandemic hit, and this is like also kind of similar time to me starting at Big Loud. And, I decided I've done 5 half Ironmans and I did 1 full, and I'll probably never do one ever again.
What is a full Ironman?
It's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride, and then a 26 mile run.
No, thank you. That's insane.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But hell, you get to check that off the list.
It was a tough.
What were you thinking the whole time? What kept you going?
If it was easy, everyone would do it.
There it is.
No, I mean, like it's changed my life. I'm still an avid runner. It's a really healthy outlet for me. I think like you can get so absorbed with this job, and it's a really, really great way for me to just process things and like think through conversations and things that are bothering me, and then like kind of readjusting my priorities accordingly. And my wife always jokes, like if I haven't like gone out and like rode my bike or ran or something, she's like, I can tell that you haven't like got that that little energy out that you have.
Go outside.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Man, and do you listen to music while you run, or is that your time to clear your head?
It depends. Like sometimes nothing at all. Other times I'm a big audiobook guy.
Yeah, totally.
And then just like my Spotify algorithm is so confused. It's like, you know, it'll be like, you know, Luke Combs and then Pop Smoke and then the Deftones, you know. That
means you work in the music industry. You just love music.
Yeah.
There you go. And I also want to get into Culture City and the American Cancer Society.
Yeah.
Tell me about your involvement there and your passion.
Totally. So I met the Culture City folks when I was tour managing Dragons. And basically they're an organization that makes sports and music more inclusive for people that have sensory problems. And there's nothing I love more than music, and I would hate that anyone couldn't go and have a great experience at a concert. And so their mission like really spoke to me. So when I did the full Ironman, I asked my friends and family if they wanted to donate, and you know, we raised $10,000, and then I fought in like the Rumble on the Row thing, and we raised money for Culture City again.
Great.
Which is amazing. And then in managing MacKenzie Porter, she's got a really colorful family history with cancer, and my sister-in-law Abby is also a cancer survivor. I lost my Aunt Kara last year, and it's the worst thing in the entire world. So MacKenzie and I were in Arizona at Waste Management Open. We met Dr. Kamal, who's the chief patient officer of the American Cancer Society, and we were like, how can we work together with you more? And last year I produced a concert for them called Country vs. Cancer.
Wow.
We raised $85,000. It was MacKenzie Porter, Dustin Lynch, Walker Hayes, Alana Springsteen, Lily Rose. It was, if I could just like single-handedly say like the most meaningful, best thing I've ever done was just being a small part of that night.
That's incredible.
It's so easy to get in the weeds with what we do, and like knowing that we are like A, raise money, B, created so much content for the ACS with all these artists that have such a huge reach. You know, there's so many people in rural America that don't have access to hospitals. They have an amazing place called Hope Lodge that you can stay in for free. And my wife and I volunteer. Well, we're taking a little break from volunteering right now with the baby, but we had been volunteering there. So anyway, I just, if you have time to help, you should.
Yes.
It's not hard.
And if you have time, you should help. There it is. And I mean, how cool is it that you're using what you're good at and what your artists are good at to spread awareness and to raise money.
Totally.
How did you put that together? How did you put that whole thing?
Well, so like Dr. Kamal was talking to MacKenzie.
Yeah.
He's like, should we do some concert? And we were like, okay, well, what if we did like MacKenzie Porter and Friends? So we were like, from finding the live stream partner to the venue, like Moo TV, Claire Brothers, I forget who did PTP did the lighting.
Love it.
They all donated all the gear. Ryan Aviation wrote a $20,000 check right off the get-go to sponsor the event.
Wow.
And then all the guest artists were so gracious with their time. Like they all came to rehearsals. You know, MacKenzie's band learned all these other artists' songs, and we, you know, did a 75-minute concert.
Wow.
And we could not believe Gibson donated a guitar. We were like, maybe we'll raise like, you know, $30,000 or $40,000, and we did $85,000, which is so
unbelievable.
Cool. So we're planning the second one right now.
I was about to say, come on, we got
Yeah.
year 2, baby.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Well, I can't wait to hear more about that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And we are out of time. Thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on being a new dad.
Thanks for having me. And just shout out, because we're using gigs with my clients, and it's been a huge help, and very, very excited to continue working with y'all.
Means so much. Thank you. Thank you, Big Loud. Thank you, Drew.
Thanks for having me.